this is Women's Empowerment Radio. If you can hear me, put a 1 in the chat, please. Put a 1 in the chat. And so we're talking about breast cancer awareness. And I have a very special guest with me tonight. And her name is Jacqueline Jeter. And I'm about to introduce her, but I want to make sure that the sound is good. So go ahead and put a 1 in the chat for me. Put a 1 in the chat. And so I am Dr. Marcea, and I am your Master of Destiny life coach. And what I do here on the Up Sis Up Show is I help women to rise up. I help women to speak up. And then I help women to boss up in life and in a leadership. And I just want to hear a 1. Can we get a 1 in the chat? All right, we're checking the microphone, just making sure that we are good to go. Let me see, that seems to be good. Let me see about here. Okay, I think we're good to go now. All right, cool. So I'm here with my special guest, and it is Jacqueline Jeter. And I want to introduce her. And she has been recognized as one of the premier leadership experts. Jacqueline Jeter is highly sought after a keynote speaker. She's a best-selling author and a transformational growth strategist. And she is one of the most empowering, entertaining voices in motivational speaking today, leveraging over 30 years of leadership experience in the pharmaceutical industry. And Jacqueline, she's on a mission to impact audiences and train organizations worldwide to identify, address, and eliminate leadership challenges associated with change management, leadership development, and team building. Jacqueline is also the founder of Grow, Lead, and Prosper, a global personal and professional training and leadership development company focusing on equipping women with skills and strategies to conquer limited mindsets that deter them from operating in their purpose and full potential. Wow. And I am welcoming Jacqueline to the stage. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am great. It is so good to see you. And we met a while back, and we did life together for a time. And then I haven't seen you in a while, but I've seen you on social media. I've seen you in these social media streets. And so I'm sure there's so much more that I did not say. I do know you're also a John Maxwell certified coach. And so if you could just share a little bit about who you are for our viewers.
I think you covered it. I am a transformational growth strategist and mindset strategist. And the people that really kind of come to me or I'm drawn to when they're drawn to me are women in their mid 40s and older. When at that pivot point and they're ready to understand, like, I've been doing life this long and I don't know how I've been doing life the way I want to do it. I'm not showing up who I want to show up. And so helping them or equipping them to be able to conquer those things, identify those challenges, to be able to conquer those challenges and then execute on the plans that they have for their life. So help them to ice their success. Mm-hmm. And what woman is like a little ice?
Yes, I love that. Just a little bit. Now, when I did read your bio, I did notice that you are what we're going to call bivocational, okay? Meaning you have a business, but you also have what we call like a 9-to-5. And I'm going to ask you, because I get the same question, is how do you balance that in this space?
Yes, I have a 30 plus year career in pharmaceutical development. I'm a pharmaceutical development scientist, and our current therapeutic area of research is oncology. So, but balancing that is I do a lot of calendar blocking. I know I'm the freshest in the morning creative wise, so I get it very early, have my devotional time, workouts. I'm getting back into more consistent working out every day, and then have that time where I just block out a couple hours before it's time to go to work. I work from home, which is really great. So my commute's pretty short. And so I'm usually online around 8:30 and then off at 5. So I stick pretty close to that my calendar, my timing, so that I don't have all those those distraction bleeds, like I call them. So, and
Mm-hmm.
time bleeds. So I do that, and then in the evening, I'm either doing classes or of some sort, and then I block off sometimes. I'm a night owl and I'm an early bird, so that's how that kind of comes together. But that's how I am able to balance it.
Okay. So you mentioned something, the counter blocking, and I'm hearing in my mind's eye that people want to know what that is. So you said it just kind of like, oh yeah, I counter block, and that's how I do. I do 8 to 5, and then I do this, da, 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 right? Some of us are. I'm gonna say I'm calendar challenged, right? I'll have a, what do you call it? I'll have a great thought about how I want the day to go, and then something will come, and or I decide I don't feel like it. I'm very much into my feelings. So how can that process help people like me?
It takes a lot of discipline and intentionality because I was like that person too. I was like, oh my, I love college sports, football and basketball, and NFL. And so when COVID came, there were no sports. So I had all this time on my hands, so to speak. And that's when I really started getting more intentional and focused on calendar blocking because you had more flexibility. I had a lot more flexibility in my day and my weekend. And so calendar blocking is basically just saying from, it doesn't have to be a whole day, it doesn't have to be a lot of time. Just knowing when you're your freshest that you want to get something done.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get something organized that you know that's probably better for you to do at a certain part of the day, then do that. And you may have to do that on a weekend or whatever, depending on your schedule is. But it's just saying that taking this time and saying from 2 to 3, I'm focusing on this. And I turn my phone off, I put it on do not disturb, and I don't have it near me because I'll hear a ping and be like, oh, who's posting on Facebook? So because I can have those ADD moments too. So I had to be very, very intentional about doing that. And I also kind of that also kind of was birthed out of me um just taking something, if I'm cleaning up my office or moving something in my office, I'm like, this should go upstairs in the bookcase upstairs. And I go upstairs and I start doing something up there, and then I start something over here. So I said, okay, I'm going to force myself to stay in my office. I put up bins and say, this is what I'm going to put in. This is what has to go to this room, and this room. And that helped with the calendar blocking. So I stayed in my office for that hour, whatever time I blocked off, I was going to do something in my office.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I was finished, I took those bins and put the stuff in the other place and then did the same thing in other places. So it's just really a lot of discipline and intentionality. And it does take time because there are times now, I mean, I'll calendar block. I'm like, my mind will start drifting and I'll start thinking about something else. But I have to bring myself back and just remind myself that. And I set a timer. I said, I'll call her Lexi because I call her full name. She'll come on. So I set Lexi to give me an alarm or some time so that I know that my hour's up or I have 15 minutes left for that time.
Yeah, that's a good. And I know this is going to come up later because how we do one thing is how we do everything. But what I'm hearing is that, and I know you're a strategist, okay? I'm hearing strategy on how you have tailored your life and put things in place so that you can be successful. I heard the counter blocking. I heard the putting the phone someplace. And I also heard I might have ADD right along the way, right? Because I those pings I'm looking, but then I also heard you talk about the bins and also setting a timer. And so all those things are so important as we move through. So the thing I want to do is I want to ask you about a date. I think it was August 26th, 2021. Is that the right
Yeah,
date? Okay.
that's right.
Can you share with us what that date means to you?
That date was kind of the beginning of the second part of my life. It was a date that I heard words that I never thought I'd ever hear coming towards me. It was a date that really rattled my cage. It was a date that when I got that phone call, because again, I'm a scientist by career. I got that phone call for the follow up from my mammogram, and the nurse navigator says your pathology shows invasive ductal carcinoma with metastasis to the lymph node. And I'm like, this is not the lottery I wanted to win because 1 in 8 women in their lifetime will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was like, this is not the lottery guy I wanted to win. It's the one with the money. It's not this one. And so I just took all the air out of my life, and literally my life flashed before my eyes in about 30 minutes. I was just in a zone. I was really almost catatonic. And because I was like, I can't believe this happened to me. I was numb. And then my sweetie was there with me. We were sitting on the sofa, and he was like, babe, this is not the end. You just know what's going on with you. Because what happened was several months ahead of that. Um, this happened in August. Several months ahead of that, around July or so. Um, I worked out every day except for Sunday. Ate 80-20, so I ate pretty relatively good. So I'm like, why is this happening to me? Because I'm a person who's been doing this thing. I had two sisters that had breast cancer. One passed away in her 70s and one passed away at 49. So I've always been very vigilant about doing my breast exams, sometimes twice a month. And so I'll put this plug: do your breast exams, men and women, because breast cancer is no respect of persons. So just make sure you do that. And so I felt well, I got in the shower after I had this really blowout. I had this trainer, I had this really blowout workout with her, and my arms were just sore. I was just sore. And I got in the shower. When the water hit my right breast, it wasn't that it was sore, it hurt. And I thought that's odd. And so and then when I was kind of washing, I felt like a little, sometimes you get those little fat pockets under your skin, they dissolve after a while. I thought that's what it was, like right here at my arm. So I just made a note of that as well. But then my breast just didn't feel right. So I felt this like a little bubble. And I was told I had fibrocystic breast, which if you see a picture of fibrocystic breast, then you'll see the mammary glands, that they kind of have like little bubbles or nodules on them because they may be inflamed. And that's what it felt like. I'm like, that's probably that. So then, as life would have it, that was the next couple days after that, they called me to confirm my mammogram. It was my yearly mammogram. And they asked the question, did you do you have anything that's different from last time? And I told them that, like, we're going to cancel your mammogram. I'm like, wait, really? Wait, I need to see you. I don't need you to cancel me. She said, we're going to your doctor to see you so she can then get the right, exam. So that date was really just a time where it really put things into perspective about how precious life is and how fragile life is and how quickly life can, just be here and be gone. And so after that timing with her, and I got to see her the next week because I already had a yearly physical set up to see her. And so all those things kind of dovetail together. And then August 26th came, and I had that news.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that and kind of going back to that. And I heard you say the words, right? That the cancer diagnosis with the metastasis, which means it's spread outside of the breast to the lymph node, right? So you already said cancer, and now you're saying it's, you're saying that invasive word, right? And then you're
Yep.
saying it's metastasized, and now you said catatonic, and you said your life kind of went past, those, you lived a whole life in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I want to know how did cancer change you?
I always say, and I've said this for a long time, I need to get a t-shirt with this though, but whatever we go through should refine us and not define us. And
Mm.
so it's helped to refine my life a lot. A friend of mine is in a cancer journey, and she got her scans the other day, so she's cancer free. Nothing's there, so I'm happy about that for her. But she said that basically cancer kind of saved her marriage because it saved her life in a lot of ways. And people think of that in a bad way, because in a different way, because the cancer is a death sentence. It doesn't have to be a death sentence. Mine was caught early, and went through chemo and all the other things that come with that. But it was caught early. I'm thankful for that. But I had to change my perspective and say, I get to go through breast cancer, because a lot of women don't get to do that. A lot of women
Mm-hmm.
get a diagnosis and they don't even get to go through chemo because the chemo is too much or whatever. So it's changed me in my perspective a lot. It's changed me to be more intentional. It's changed me in my faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed a lot. It's changed me just how I really look at life and how precious life really truly is. So a lot
Yeah.
of times we think about that. Um, I had even though I make a lot of lists and I have a strategist, sometimes strategists don't always execute in certain things. I'm more in a let's do this now type space, and I'm more forward thinking now, in the sense of, because there were a lot of things I had on my plate to do. And so when that came, and then I started, knowing what my treatment's going to be. I'm like, well, I can't do that, can't do that, can't go here, can't do this, because I couldn't do it at that time.
Mm.
And so I didn't want that to happen again. So I'm more strategic in how I'm setting up my, just revising some things in my business and making sure I have systems in place that actually truly work when I'm not able to,
Mm-hmm.
or when I don't want to, or if I'm like on a beach somewhere. But just the different aspects of my life. But my faith definitely, and my relationship with God really went to another level in that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna need you to say that what you said about the refine and define.
What we go through should refine us and not define us.
That's good. That is really good. And that goes for anything, whether we're talking about cancer, we're talking about a relationship that went south, we're talking about, you know, death of a loved one, I mean, career, demotion, promotion, anything, car accident, whatever it is, whatever you're going through should not define you, but it should refine you. Yeah, that's good. That's good. At least you drop the mic on that one. Drop the mic on that one. Uh, um, the thing. So when I met you after August 26, 2021,
Right.
and the woman that I saw was deliberate. She, uh, didn't take no for an answer. Was a go, go, go. I may be tired. I'm going to do all I can do. I'm going to be exhausted, but I'm going to keep going. Okay. And so I want you to translate that or to compare, contrast that. So I'm talking about your after. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not your after. Maybe I saw you. Maybe it was the during. That's a better
Yeah.
word. I met you in the during, right? You were going through the process. How was that different than the before picture of you?
The before picture of me was more. Oh, I had more. I led more with procrastination as a side chick, and because I was like, oh, I can do that tomorrow. I'll do that till later or whatever. And then during and after, it's a different awareness. It's a different mindset. My mindset is more, like I said before, intentional. I'm actually even more aware of certain things, and then just really, like you said, just being more deliberate. Like I gotta get this done. There is no time, and it may not just for me, but there might be somebody else who's going through something like me, or even something at all, who needs what I have right now. And I'm thinking, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, but they need it now, because there's probably
Mm-hmm.
things that I know those things that I needed when I was going through the journey, and I needed them now. And thankfully, those persons who blessed my life in that space were releasing it now. They weren't over in the corner saying, "I'll do it tomorrow." So it made me really think about not just the things I need to do for myself, but how me moving forward and me being more action oriented and executing things impacts other people. Because there's somebody who's waiting for you,
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
waiting for what you have, and when you don't release it, they're still waffling.
yeah.
Because I believe God released us at the right time in our lives. I wasn't born too early or too late, because there's somebody on this earth that I hold the solution for, and vice versa.
Ah, so look, B. Jacqueline Jeter is dropping gems today. And that goes whether you are an entrepreneur, maybe you are a teacher, maybe you have a program, maybe you have all those ideas that are have been dropped into your spirit and you keep saying, not right now. But what BJ is saying is that there are people who need what you have. And when you don't show up, when you don't execute, when you don't do the thing, not only are you shortchanging yourself, but you're shortchanging the people who are supposed to be getting whatever it is that you're building. What do you say about
Yes,
that, BJ?
it's the truth. It is. And I was talking to one of my coaches, and we were talking about certain things, and we were just talking about that same kind of space in that. And um, we can, a lot of times we can see things in other people that they still don't see in themselves. And so, and that's really the kind of the crux of my business, is to help women to really discover who they truly are and pull that out because somebody needs what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And that piece is so critical because you think about how you felt when you needed something and when you finally came into um that came into existence, that person came into your life, or you came and had access to it, how much freeing it was, how you felt like you could breathe, like you've been holding your breath all this time. So it just makes me think about who's holding your breath. And this goes back to some woman of faith, the word that to whom much is given, much is required.
Mm-hmm.
You get all
Mm-hmm.
these downloads and all these ideas and things scribbled on your wall and pads. That's a reason for that.
Yes.
And so to just really ask God what I need to do with this, and first say I'm sorry for not using it, but do it, because if you don't move forward, someone else is going to come out. Because you've how many times you've been thinking about something and you didn't move on it, and someone you see it come out, and you're like, I was just getting ready to do that.
Right, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So there are
So,
people that are waiting for us. A good friend of mine says there are millions waiting for you, and you think millions
mm,
because there's billions of people in the world. So
yeah.
there's very easily millions waiting for you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody under the sound of our voice, there are millions waiting for you. Okay? There's millions waiting for you. And that actually can you can turn that into an affirmation, right? I can hear myself, saying, you know what, there are millions of people waiting for me today. So I have to show up. Okay? So if you want to adopt that, you go right ahead and make sure that you show up each and every day.
Show
So,
up.
B Jack, the thing that I don't know the answer to this, so I'm just going to throw it out there, okay? The way that you approached breast cancer was, it gave me the feeling that you have been through some other hard times in life. And you were now able, even after those 30 minutes, that you were able to now reach back and take that preparation and move forward. What do you think?
I wouldn't say I've been through a lot of hard things in life. I think well, I know that comes from just my faith and
Mm-hmm.
seeing my parents and how they persevered. My parents I was born to them old at an older age. My mom was 48, my dad was 52 when I was born. so, so I lost them
Wow.
early. Um, and so just seeing that and seeing my friends and seeing my family, just my sisters and brothers persevere through things. But what was instilled in us as a legacy is a legacy of faith and prayer. And I was fortunate to grow up in a loving home and have lost some support. And so I've always my father was amazing. And so if my dad said ABC, it was ABC. So just the kind of faith and childlike whatever I had with my father. I mean, I never had to come home and say, did y'all pay the light bills? Light on? And it was never any of that. It was always, I knew I was taken care of. I knew I was covered. I knew I was safe. And so in that, God tells us how much more, if your heavenly father, if your earthly father treats you like this, how much more do I treat you like that? So my faith is just that dependency and faith just kind of switched, so to speak, or I became closer to him in that space. So I've always been that person who's all that Rebecca Sunnybrook Farms type person, I guess you could say. But I've always been that person who saw the other side, and that came again from my parents instilling certain things in me and my sisters and brother. And you can focus on the bad, or you can focus on the things that are the possibilities. And
Mm-hmm.
so the possibilities of things were, because someone said, your cancer journey was pretty easy. And I'm like, it was not, but I didn't want to focus on every little jot and tittle. I did what I needed to do. John Maxwell has this thing called the law of environment. And what is your environment saying about you? Who is in your environment? Who's in your circle? Who are the people that are around you? How like you said, how you do anything is how you do everything. Is it clutter in your house? I mean, what kind of things? I set up an environment that was conducive to healing,
Mm.
playing music, playing scriptures, writing things. I researched a lot of things because, again, I'm a scientist. So I looked at those things that could happen. These are the facts. But the truth is, we're going to combat all these things in prayer. So a lot of things I didn't go through is I had people around me that were praying specifically for about some things that were, just regular side effects of medication. So just being focused, and just like you said before about being methodical and I've always kind of been like that. And I think it's that science brain in me that do look at things strategically and say, this is what we're going to do with this. This is what could happen at this cycle, at this cycle, at this cycle, and then just focus on the fact that it's not going to last forever. So that's just always my train of thought. It's not going to last forever. Did I have some days that I was kind of down or my spirit kind of went down, of course, but it didn't stay there. So that's the thing. If I know how it felt, if I stayed there, and I didn't like that feeling, so I'm like, I can't stay here. I gotta be focused and get out of this space. And
Yes.
so one thing about perspective, I have my mirror upstairs, um, that I look at every day. No matter what happens to me today, my perspective will have the final say. So what do you see when you see what you see? Do I see the cancer, or do I see healing me back on my feet and me going back to work out every day? Do I see me doing things I used to do before? Yes, it's gonna be a process and it's gonna be a journey, but I see myself in that well space and not in the space that I'm in now, because it's not going to define me.
Absolutely. It's going to refine you. I
It's gonna
love it.
refine.
I love it. So what was the hardest part? What was like the lowest point in your journey?
Besides hearing those words, they see in the journey. There was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened to me that were. I'm a case study in several several issues, and that's because of words. So our words are very important. We already know that. And so I said, God, whatever if we're going to do this, and we are, whatever happens to me, may it lend to the body of research for African American women going through breast cancer, because we are the have the lowest percentage of being diagnosed, but we have the highest percentage of death. And why is that? So many reasons for that. But the lowest point probably for me was um, when I went like around cycle 5, and I knew this could happen. When I was looking at my phone, I asked, I said, "Can you wipe my phone off? It looks very blurry." And he's like, "Okay." So he wiped it off, and I'm like, "Well, clean my glasses. They look blurry too." And my eyesight, chemo kills every cell in your body, unless you have some of the new advances that are more targeted. The chemo I had was like a traditional cocktail, and it kills every cell in your body. And so when it started affecting my eyesight, and I thought, what if I don't get my eyesight? What if my eyes going to be blurry or something like that? That was kind of a low point, because that kind of bothered me a little bit, because then I couldn't read. But then I had to flip my perspective and flip my mind and say, but you have Audible, so I can listen to a book. I don't have to read it. So that was a low point. And then the last, he was also cumulative. So that last cycle, I had 6 cycles. That last cycle took me out. So I think along the way, not being able to have the strength I had before. One other low point was because I've been working out every day and I had definition and all this other stuff. And I'm really competitive. I always did sports. I'm competitive like that. And to look at my leg after the first chemo, it was like a week after that. I just happened to look down at my leg and I had no muscle tone. And I was like, I look crazy. Just those kind of things. So losing my hair wasn't an issue, because I took that. Um, I knew I was an awareness issue, and I had a lot of hair, and I'm like, there's no way mentally I can get up out of the bed and look back and see my hair on the pillow. So I went ahead and had it cut off,
Mm-hmm.
and then had it cut really short. And then after the first, or right before the second chemo, I was twirling my hair, so I was tired. So what I do when I'm tired, and a curl came out in my finger. I'm like, I taught myself, I said, cut it, scissor over comb, because you can't shave me, because it used to nick my head, and now my immune system's all crazy.
Right.
So she cut it, scissor over comb, and then I didn't see the rest of it fall out.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just so that wasn't a low point. That was just a point that I took over, so I wouldn't be a low point. My lowest point was
Yes.
looking at my muscles and seeing that all that hard work, I didn't do that. So one of the key things about going through a cancer journey is, you have the pain, you have the physical things you go through, but the biggest thing is the mental and emotional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like with the hair, you took control,
That's a
right?
control.
You
Mhm.
controlled the parts that you could control, right?
Exactly.
Which is a lesson, a tenet that you can expand into any and every aspect of your life. You can't control what someone else does or what happens, but you can control what you do and how you're thinking about it. And when you mention about the eyesight and the pivot that you did, that was that was a pretty huge pivot from saying, you know what, will I be able to see? Will I be able to read? To, you know what, I have Audible. And I know those two statements, it's like a mountain gap. It's like a valley in between. But you said it as if it was a short distance. Can you share with us, because you are the a strategist, how do you make that pivot, and how would you what advice would you give to someone who is struggling with one of those humongous ravines of mental shifts that needs to happen?
For me, that shift was pretty quick because of talk the law of the environment and just preparation. So things have a lot. You can prepare for some things, and sometimes you can't. But in general, the things you can prepare for, um, you kind of already gone through. And what I mean by that is you've had some key things that happen in your life. What did you learn from that? What are your triggers? What are things that can send you spiraling? Because I had a friend who was like, I don't want to cut my hair. I don't care about anything else. I just want to cut my hair. And so when she cut her hair, she was really depressed. But then when she really kind of thought about it, she's like, oh, this isn't so bad. This is kind of cute. So she had to kind of flip that, but it was a chasm. But the thing was, and this is just how I am, I'm very direct. I'm my father's child. And like, well, you can have beautiful hair in a casket or have short hair and no hair walking around alive. And she's like, well, that does bring things into perspective. So it's about perspective, really. It's about, so really thinking about these are the issues I'm dealing with. This is how I'm feeling right now. So I would say, what I've helped other women with in that trying to get that chasm closer when they're in a space is to have them to write down first major accomplishments you've had in the past week or month. Because a lot of times we as women do not think about, we just say, oh, I'm just doing this. It's what everybody does. It's not. So we forget that we are truly amazing and we're crafted that way. So write down those major accomplishments. Now, the thing that you're going through, write down your major concerns in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what are the major issues and challenges you have with this? Why, what are your triggers? What's making you feel this way? What makes you feel this way when this happens? And then look at the things of what are the possibilities? And it's kind of like taking cataracts off. It's like, oh wait, this isn't so bad after all. I remember I was younger, I closed my hand in the car door and I was screaming like somebody was killing me. And I was like, help me, please. And my dad had already opened the door. And he's like, I'm going to open the door in a minute, okay? And you'll be okay. And I was like, okay. He had already opened the door, but I'm still screaming as my hand's still in the door. And when I looked at my hand, because my mind said my hand was crushed and mangled and everything, I looked at my hand and was like, oh,
Oh,
what's the matter? It's like getting a shot. I mean, you're in position.
right,
I was
right,
like, I'm going to cry. I'm going to die if you give me a shot. And you've already given it to
right.
him.
Exactly. I don't like shots, just so you know. But
Oh.
I yes, absolutely. So I just want to go to the chat for a second. There's some comments that are coming in, and Veronica says that your story is powerful. Ronnie says, I agree. Stay focused on the good. And then Sharon says, thank you for your honesty and your bravery and courage. You look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I told her earlier that that blue and the pink is just popping, and that smile. And one thing I want to say, B. Jacqueline, is that I remember the very first interaction we had. I was struggling with something. I didn't know whatever it was, and we had never met. You know, we were.
Right.
It was. We were in a chat, and you were like, you know what, Dr. Marcea, just do this or call me or whatever it was. It was just so very genuine and helpful because I was struggling. And so it's good to see you. Good to see you smiling. Good to see you joyful, and and just being out here in the world. And so I want to ask you, through this process, what is the silver lining?
It's funny you ask that because um, I had this conversation the other day with my sweetie. We were talking about different things and just things that are changed and changing. The silver lining is that I'm still here to make impact and to do the things that God had me to do. Because at first, like I said, that those 30 minutes, I had planned my funeral, I had got all my paperwork together, everything in my head. I mean, I had planned everything in those 30 minutes. And when you hear the words cancer, it changes your life forever. And it changes, I think it rewires your brain in some ways. So the silver lining has been that, again, I keep telling myself, I get to go through this. Yes, I might be taking tamoxifen and my hips feel like my bones feel like I'm 80. And I didn't have that before. So that can get kind of frustrating. I get kind of about that, like why this happened right now, and those kind of things. But I have to kind of get back in the right, on the right road and say it's happened. Let's deal with it. Let's move forward with this. How are we going to adjust? Do more water aerobics. I mean, just do something that's different. You can't focus on things that are gone. Look at what remains. And so that is what I'm doing. Is looking at what remains.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the thing that I want to talk about is that there is that moment where we say that we get to do it. Okay? And what B. Jacqueline was talking about, she says, you know what? She gets to go through this process. She gets to go through cancer. And sometimes it is really hard. It's really hard to get to that place.
Okay. All right.
And
You
so,
froze for a minute. Yeah.
oh yeah, you did too. Let me see if I can get you back onto the camera. One second. Let's see here. So we were talking about that you get to. Okay, can you talk more about? I want everyone who's under the sound of my voice to just kind of whatever it is that you're thinking about. I want you to put in the chat that I get to dot dot dot. Okay, I want you to say it out loud, and if you're in the chat, go ahead and put that in because that's a great pivot for whatever it is that we're going through. So, BJ, I'm trying to get you back on camera.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. If you could kind of speak to that as you are, um, just say more about that.
So when I say I get to go through that, that was another mindset shift for me because I did have that moment of why is this happening to me? Why now? I mean, I thought I was doing everything to kind of combat this. I'm doing, I did my exams. I did this. I've gone all my mammograms. I eat, relatively healthy. I work out every day and, just things like that. And then um, being in research and seeing, now I'm on the other side of the informed consent that I write. I'm on the other side of the package insert that I get to review. I'm on the other side of a marketed drug that I've seen and researched and actually, uh, you know, um, oversaw in programs, global programs and all that. So just walking in someone else's shoes. Stephen Covey in his 7 habits has the fifth habit is seek first to understand and not to be understood. And so in that, I was like, Lord, you didn't give this to me, but how are we going to, and I said how are we going to glorify you? And what is this, what is the lesson in this? Because there's nothing that we go through that's wasted. So my fear at first, even when they told me I need to have, they saw something suspicious, was that I don't want to end up on my sisters. And so they didn't get to a certain point, but my nephew, who is actually the son of one of my sisters that passed, said, Auntie, this ain't that. And that was the thing that kind of also kept me focused. This ain't that. And so I had to look at the fact that then I met other people who were at in certain areas or certain phases of their journey, and they're like, I couldn't finish the chemo because it's too, it was too harsh, or I couldn't do this right here, or this happened, and I'm allergic to this, so I can't take this kind of medication. I got to go through all that.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go. I was fortunate enough to be able to go through the course of chemo I had. I was fortunate to go through radiation with like a dime sized burn instead of my whole breast being burned because that happens to people. I was fortunate enough to have get my strength and energy back. I was fortunate enough to do that, and not everybody. That's not everybody's story. So I have to look at that in the sense of why are you being pitiful? Why are you even thinking about um, what happened and what was? This is what is, and again, this is what is. Let's move forward on this, embracing what remains. And so whether you're going through a financial thing, you could have lost your house and everything else. You get to start again. Some people don't get to that.
Yeah, you
If
get
you
to.
lost a job, you get to interview for another job and get another job. Not everybody has that opportunity. So really putting it in perspective again about um, your perspective having the final say. No matter what happens to you today, your perspective will have that final say. And going back to that, what do you see when you see what you see? If I had a big whiteboard and put a dot on it, are you focusing on that dot? Are you focusing on the expanse of all the opportunities around that dot? And
Yeah,
so I focus on the expanse.
yeah, yeah. So that is really good. Now I want to take you to a moment. I want to take you to a moment where you are ringing the bell. Okay? The bell moment. I want you to take me through that and just tell me what was happening for you.
The last infusion. So I went through chemo, and then I had some additional infusions, some immunotherapy infusions. So the last chemo infusion, first of all, shout out to UNC Rex because they were amazing. And so I went through that, and they don't have a bell ringing there because they're sensitive to other patients who may not be able to get to that far or may not be able to have that opportunity. So they don't have a bell ringing in their new facility. So my sweetie gave me has this big gigantic, like I call it the Liberty Bell, and I sat out in front of the cancer center and did it live and rang that bell. And it felt like for every time I heard that bell, it kind of just the sound reverberated through my body, like this is done. Even though I had these other infusions to go, they were very simple. They were 30 minutes and not 3 hours. And they were not debilitating at all like the other ones were. But it was just, it just, it solidified that I got to go through chemo. I got to go through this because I didn't know so many women don't get through their chemo because of adverse effects or things they couldn't handle.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so, and it was just like, I was just very fortunate in that sense. And I sat on the bench outside the cancer center and just did that video, and I just cried because I was just like, this is just another milestone, another thing what God has done in my life. He is in the Old Testament. He talks about where he's going through things, and I think it was Moses, but he said, build a memorial. So when your children's children come and ask, what means these stones? You can tell them about what happened and how God moved in that sense. So that video is my what means these stones type thing. I did a video at the end of the immunotherapy piece as I rang the bell to myself again at that time. And that was a little different because the nurse I had, her father, she had taken care of her father. I always asked them, so how did you become an oncology nurse? Because the oncology nurses are very amazing to me. They're like teachers. They're just amazing because you have to have a heart to be able to be an oncology nurse, and you have to have a heart for that. And so she took care of her father when he was going through cancer, and that last knowing that was the last time, I just started crying, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm just happy. This is done.
Yeah.
That was done." And so I did another video when I did the finished, radiation. So each step I've built a memorial, so to speak. So I can look back on that and see that next step is gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
So
that's kind
good.
of the main points about this journey of how it's been and just how it kind of continues to be, so to speak.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. And we don't go through what we go through. We talked about this for ourselves. We go through it for other people. And the the name of our radio show tonight is Grow, Lead, and Prosper Through Breast Cancer. And I know also that Grow, Lead, Prosper is part of your program. And so I want you just to share with us a little bit about how what you've gone through now carries over into what it is that you do as you help those in leadership.
So I have a quote, and that quote is I like quotes apparently. That quote is growth happens within way before it's evidence without. And so, in order for you leaders help grow other leaders. And so, in order for you to get to the lead and prosper, you have to first grow, and that happens within. And so, for my journey, a lot of my journey again happened from within. My faith was inspired. My faith was refined. My faith was made stronger, and that came from within. Just my mindset was has been different. That came from within, and just really a lot of self talk, a lot of reading the Bible, a lot of prayer, a lot of all of that came from within. And so then you see the external part of that. When I was sitting there thinking, like, why, God? I mean, because as I said, I had moments where I was like, why is this happening? I just don't get it. I don't understand. Is this a dream? Help, wake me up. But it was like, I just really heard in my mind, my heart, this is not about you. There's something that you're going to bring forth that someone else needs to see. And I'll give you an example of that. Um, no kudos for myself, but I was waiting to go in for one of my treatments. And so the nurse comes out and they're like, Miss Jeter, you ready? So I come up and I said, she said, Miss Jeter, you got me today. I'm like, okay, cool. This other nurse runs up and goes, no. I got Miss Jeter. And she's like, no, you don't. And they're going back and forth. about who's going to be my oncology nurse that day. I was like, this is kind of crazy. This lady goes, who are you? And I was like, my daddy's a king. And I just winked at her and we were cracking up. And so I thought she was, we're so sorry about that. We're just so sorry. I was like, okay. She's, I know it seems kind of crazy. I'm like, what was the deal about that? She says, well, when you come in with such joy and you come in, you're laughing, you uplift us. So you don't understand what you do for us when you come in, because this is a heavy role,
Mm-hmm.
and not everybody comes in, and we know that they're dealing with life threatening situation, but not everybody comes in with a happy disposition. So
Yes.
when we do, we're happy for that because it helps our day further. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'm just thinking like, okay. And so it's like Holy Spirit said, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
You are here to reflect me wherever you go.
Mm.
And so when you have that perspective, first that awareness and then that perspective,
Yeah.
uh, it's not about, like you said, what we go through is not about us, because you never know who's watching you. You never know who needs what you have. You never know who's waiting for you to show up. You never know.
Exactly.
Sometimes
Exactly.
your presence can bring someone peace and calm.
Mm-hmm.
You just, that it's not you being pompous or anything. It's just you being authentically who you are. And so when you grow, growth is uncomfortable. And when you grow, if you think about a mother having a baby, by the time we see that baby, that's the time the mother's showing, that baby's been growing for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why growth happens within before you even see it
Within.
without. So once you're able to grow as a leader, and how it's happened to me in my life, is just what things are key. What is it that I need to bring forth? And what it helped me to also rediscover me and say, what are those unique things that God gave me? And how did he craft me? And I had to embrace those things and use them for the good, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so once you start growing, because leaders are readers and they grow, and we grow in our capacity, then the way you show up helps you to lead and lead others, because you can't get to the prosperity without the growth. A tree, you never see a seed be put in the ground and then it says a tree. It doesn't happen. It has to go through a
A
process.
process.
So it's all that process of that. So that's kind of how they live together.
Yeah. So if you could just share a little bit about if someone is in that leadership role and they need your assistance, say more about the program and how they can get a hold of you.
So I have a movement that's called Unmask, Unmute, Unleash, and you can. I'll have to put that in the thing, but I'll put it in the information as well. But you can join the meet. It's a Facebook group. You can join me on there. That is a community of like-minded women who are ready to master mindset, and execution, mindset, purpose, and execution, and move forward in what they can do. So it's Unmask, Unmute, Unleash, mastering mindset, purpose, and execution would be Jacqueline. You can also email me at bjacqueline at grow, lead, and prosper. And I'll get you on my calendar. We'll have a 15-minute powwow about what your needs are. Because I think every person's needs are different. But the key strategy of everything is to um, first identify what those things are, so we can see where your issues are, and then we can create a plan, executable plan that you'll be able to do. But you have to come ready. I always say I'm not everybody's coach. I'm not that kumbaya coach. I'm the coach that comes for the elephants in the room. So if you're ready, truly ready to move forward, then I'm ready to help move you forward.
Awesome. So as we get ready to close, I want you to speak on what up sis up means in the setting of someone who is facing their hardest challenge, including the cancer diagnosis.
Ooh, that's a good one. Up, sis, up. I mean, when I think about up, sis, up, I'm thinking about not just lifting your head up, but really lifting up your spirit. Um, and someone may say, well, I'm too heavy, I'm too down to lift my spirit up. Upping, opening up yourself to be lifted up by someone else, to someone to
Mm-hmm.
come along beside you. So up is really a direction, but it's also a state of mind and a state of being. So really understanding and just encouraging yourself that this hurts, but I'm going to make it. Um, I used to run years ago, but a friend of mine has run like all 50 states, a marathon every 50 states. And so she talks about the hardest part is not just starting. The hardest part is when you're in so many miles, the last mile of that marathon. you've already run 20 some miles, and that last mile is the hardest because you can see the finish line, but you want to quit and your body's
Mm-hmm.
trying to break down.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear up sits up, I think about pushing to that finish line. It's maybe hard. It might be hard. It may hurt, but it's not that the finish line's not that far. It's
Yeah.
not that far. And just one shift in your position can and your posture can help you to really come out of that space and to succeed and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as you were saying that, you mentioned someone who was, 6 months pregnant or when she was showing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That last, when you think about someone who's about to deliver, right? It's that last piece that's the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to go through that part in order to get the baby out.
Right.
And so as you're going through your hardest challenge, it's that last, what they say is the darkness that comes before the morning.
It's
That's,
the darkest before dawn.
yes, that's the darkest place. But if you could just make it, if you can just push, if you can just keep going a little bit longer, that last mile, what's on the other side is going to be something greater and bigger and larger and more, just better, bigger than you ever would have thought.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard. You like, I can't, but you have to think about, and this is why I also tell women, it's like, don't think about how far you have to go. Think about how far you've been. You've already
Mm,
come further than you have to go.
yeah,
And sometimes that's that push you need.
yeah, yeah. So
You've
if
already
you,
gone through 9 months.
yeah, yeah. So for those in the chat, I want you to put the word push. Okay, push. Okay, some of you are maybe facing that hardest challenge, but right now we're going to push, whether it's that last mile, whether it's that last week of being pregnant, whatever it is, the thought is to just push, push forward and look up as you do that. So with that, we just dropped your information into the chat. Thank you, Ronnie, for that. She has her your Twitter, your Instagram, your social tap. We got all the things, right? We got
Thank
all the things. Get over there to her Facebook page and schedule that meeting with B. Jacqueline Jeter. Thank you so much for being on the show, B.
Thanks for
Jacqueline.
having me.
And I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you, as we say in these social media streets. But wish you all the best. Until next time, take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
And there you have it. That was B. Jacqueline Jeter here on the Up Sis Up show, Women's Empowerment Radio. And wanted to just to kind of highlight a couple things. One is that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You heard B. Jacqueline say, do your self exams, get your mammogram, and also align yourself. If you happen to have had that bad news or that fear of waiting for the result, align yourself with some people that are going to help keep you in that positive spirit, okay, in that positive light. If you are a leader and you need some leadership training, reach out to be Jacqueline. The contact information is in the chat. It's going to be on our site. Please go ahead and do that, so that, because what you also said is that our journey is not just for us. It is for those that need what we have. And we have to get to a place where we are now pushing, right? We're pushing, and we're not thinking about what that thing is going to do to define us, but we're looking for how it's going to refine us. And so as we go forward, we're going to grow, we're going to lead, and we're going to prosper. So with that, good night, and I'll see you next week here on the Up Sis Up show. I'm Dr. Marcea, and good night.